What do Republicans fear more than facts? A subpoena for Elon Musk. What do they fear more than truth? Trans kids existing. Welcome to today's unhinged House hearing meltdown.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Ms. Crockett from Texas for 5 minutes.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd actually like to subpoena the former head of Doge. If we could subpoena Elon Musk. Can we take a vote on that?
This hearing will suspend.
Is the clerk in place? Do we have a clerk? Can I make a motion that we subpoena Elon Musk right now?
The hearing has suspended.
Oh, well. Point of order, Madam Chair.
We're suspended.
Point of inquiry? I'm trying to ask a question.
The hearing is suspended. If you can have some patience, we're suspended.
It's
The hearing will now resume. Ms. Crockett, do you have a motion?
I didn't have a motion. I had a point of order. I was trying to determine how long it was going to take for us to call the roll. I can call it if need be.
Well, if you're not making a motion, then
already made
you
the
can
motion.
continue with your 5 minutes of
The
questioning.
motion was to subpoena Elon Musk, who was heading Doge, who is the one that made the recommendations for these cuts, yet he is yet to come before this committee. And last time I checked, none of the witnesses sitting here know anything about Doge except for what they read on the internet. I want to talk to the person.
This isn't either. You've made your motion.
Okay, well, you were asking, so I wanted to make sure you
You
understood.
made your motion.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Burchett,
Chair Lady, I'd like to make a motion to table that motion.
the motion is not debatable, as many are in favor of tabling the motion. Signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the yeas have it.
Madam Chair, we'd
and
ask
the
for a
motion
recorded
to
vote.
table is agreed to. A recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will call the roll.
Yeah, call it.
We're going to wait one moment. The clerk will get the voting sheets.
Okay.
Say that. I think she needs to say it.
Well, yes, the clerk will prepare for the vote, and then we'll go from there. The hearing is suspended.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
What am I waiting? The hearing will resume. A recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Cloud? No. Mr.
Yes, to table.
Mr. Cloud votes yes. Mr. Fallon? Mr. Timmons? Yes. Mr. Timmons votes yes. Mr. Burchett? Mr. Burchett votes aye. Mr. Burleson? Mr. Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Jack votes aye. Mr. Gill? Mr. Gill votes aye. Ms. Stansberry? Ms. Norton? Mr. Lynch? No. Mr. Lynch votes no. Mr. Garcia? Mr. Kassar? No. Mr. Crockett, or Ms. Crockett?
No.
Ms. Green?
Yes to table. The clerk will report the tally.
Madam Chair, the ayes are yes, the noes are 4.
The yeas have it, and the motion to table is agreed to. The committee will now resume. I now recognize Ms. Crockett for 5 minutes.
What we saw in part 1 is exactly why accountability in this country is a pipe dream when Republicans are in charge. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett dared to challenge the system by calling for a subpoena of Elon Musk, the man behind the Doge cuts, and the GOP instantly shut it down. They didn't want facts, they wanted control. A subpoena means questions, documents, truth, but instead they buried it under a motion to table and smirked while doing it. This isn't about governance, it's about protecting oligarchs. It's about shielding a billionaire who's become the tech messiah of right-wing fantasy. And when they're not covering for billionaires, they're vilifying children, weaponizing transphobia, and using taxpayer dollars as a political bludgeon. Part 2 takes us straight into their culture war crusade.
Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. The Doge website details much of the wasteful spending and it hits the brakes on, and it has an incredible list of top hits. Some of the spending is not just embarrassing, but it is funding actually the genital mutilation of our children, forcing the American taxpayers to pay for it. A $620,000 HHS grant for #Transcendent Health, adapting an LGBT plus inclusive teen prevention program for transgender boys. $620,000 from HHS. It's absurd. This is disgusting, and it facilitates a lie. Here's another one. A $2,000 NIH grant for cross-sex steroid therapy and cardiovascular risk in transgender females. This is another absurd grant that was handed out. A $120,000 NIH grant for personalized 3D avatar tool development for measurement of body perception across gender identities. Here's another absurd grant that, again, tells the lie that there's more than two genders. There's only two, male and female. That's it. Something else that the American people should know about, these radical extremist judges that are playing politics from the bench, a judge ruled that this has to be protected. This is a HHS program for gender-affirming care in young people. Again, the only thing that affirms gender is the fact that there's only two sexes, male and female, and the American people should never have to pay for that lie. Ms. DeVito, in your testimony, you talk about so-called failures of Doge in your opinion, but do you support the federal government funding HHS and NIH studies that promote the genital mutilation of children? Do you support forcing Americans to pay for genital mutilation of children? Yes or no, Ms. DeVito?
Thank you for your question. I think we all agree that the government should work for people.
No, I asked you, do you support genital mutilation of children and the American people having to pay for it? That's a yes or no question.
I think government research is responsible for all sorts of innovations that we enjoy
So you do,
today.
so for the record, you do support the American people paying for top and bottom surgeries of children.
I think
Cutting off the breast of young girls, teenage girls, and castrating teenage boys. You support the American people paying for that.
I think government research is incredibly important.
That's
to
not
our
research,
overall
Ms.
innovation.
DeVito. That's mutilating kids' bodies before they're old enough to vote, before they're old enough to join the military, before they're old enough to even be adults. That's what you're saying the American people should pay for. Just so you know, Ms. DeVito, and I'm very proud to announce that I have a bill called Protect Children's Innocence Act that will criminalize sex changes on children, and that bill will see a vote on the House floor, and I look forward to my Republican colleagues and hopefully Democrats that come to their senses voting yes for that bill, because it's absolutely repulsive and disgusting, and America voted against that this past election. Sick. Mr. Dickerson, how do we implement cuts and appropriations moving forward to prevent these agencies from ever being able to fund these studies that promote the mutilation of children's bodies ever again?
I think what you need to do is ensure those writers are included in the appropriations bills that are passed to clarify to the agencies that even though they have never actually received authorization for these, so they shouldn't have actually done it in the first place, but if they need that funding rider to restrict American taxpayer funds for going to those terribly divisive and harmful things.
Yeah, permanently, right?
Exactly.
Thank you. Other egregious abuses of funds, a $10 million Department of Education grant to the Virginia Commonwealth University for faculty workshops on decolonizing the curriculum, a nearly $700,000 National Science Foundation grant to the University of Tennessee for Black and Latinx parents leading reform and advancing racial justice in elementary mathematics, a project that could provide a model for other communities and schools seeking to advance racial justice in mathematics and education. This is insane, absurd, and it's racist in itself. Math is math. A $500,000 EPA grant, green jobs, growing a new generation of environmental justice problem solvers. All of this stuff is far left ideology, and the American people should not be paying for it. It looks like my time's up, so with that, I'll yield to the ranking member, Stansbury, for 5 minutes.
Let's be crystal clear. What happened in part 2 wasn't a policy discussion. It was a bigoted tirade, cloaked in appropriations language. The GOP doesn't just oppose trans health care, they demonize it, mislabeling it as mutilation, spewing fear-mongering lies designed to stir outrage and fundraising. They attack programs that save lives, calling them disgusting, while ignoring mountains of medical consensus, research, and lived experiences. And then, as if on cue, they veer into racist denial, mocking grants for racial equity in education as absurd. Apparently, math is only math when it erases the existence of Black and Latino communities. These attacks aren't just ignorant, they're strategic. They exist to erase, to dehumanize, and to distract from their own legislative failures. This isn't budget hawkery, it's authoritarianism in drag. And make no mistake, their goal is censorship, control, and the complete erasure of any narrative that challenges their white, Christian, nationalist worldview. This hearing wasn't about fiscal responsibility, it was about cultural domination. The GOP spent its time protecting Elon Musk, a billionaire tech baron currently gutting public communication spaces, while vilifying LGBTQ+ youth, mocking medical science, and erasing entire racial communities from academic discourse. They pretended to care about taxpayer dollars, yet showed zero concern for actual budgetary waste, like bloated defense contracts or corporate subsidies. Instead, their fury focused on a $620,000 health grant, a gender study, and equity-focused education programs. Why? Because these programs challenge their power and their worldview. What's more dangerous is how coordinated these attacks are. From Marjorie Taylor Greene's screaming monologue about castrating boys to the smirking attempts to table Elon Musk's subpoena, we are watching a movement that seeks to institutionalize hate under the guise of oversight. They want to criminalize healthcare, suppress education, and censor speech, while playing the victim all the way to the ballot box. If we don't call this what it is, fascist creep, then we are complicit in its rise. Let's say it plainly. This hearing was an embarrassment to democracy and a warning of what's to come. Subscribe to Malcolm Viren Hearing, where we don't flinch from fascism. We confront it. Like, comment, and share this takedown before they rewrite the record. Truth needs backup.